Hello everyone, welcome to the Connecting the World show, and I'm your host, Muniem Rizvi. Tonight we had a guest from Toronto, Canada. His name is Mr. Michael H Ballard. Mr. Michael is an inspiration speaker, storyteller, coach, trainer, and he's also deal people on advisory and failure and become more successful. So, without any wasting of my time, I'm going to invite my guest, Mr. Michael. Hello, sir. How are you?
Hello, I am well. Thank you very much. Great to be here.
Thank you so much, sir. Hope so you can hear me very
Yes,
well.
all good.
Perfect. Okay, sir. I want to ask you that kindly please tell my audience about yourself. Who is Mr. Michael H. Beller? From where are you, and what you do exactly in your life?
Well, it's 67 years almost, and I got interested in what we do and what we're talking about today because at 6 I had a concussion riding my little bicycle. Somebody ran in front. I avoided them and fell off my bike and hit my head. And when I went to the hospital, the other young man who also had a concussion, I wanted quiet, lights down low, no talking. He Similar incident, yelled, screamed, and shouted and wanted lots of attention. Not right or wrong, good or bad, just different. And so that raised to me at an early age that two people with similar experiences can react very differently. That was just amazing to me at 6. I mean, if your head hurts and your eyes hurt and your ears hurt, why would you want to make a noise? So that got me interested in human behavior at a really young age. So fast forward, I did quite well with my own little business as a teenager, and I got told I was lucky, and it was like, lucky? I have hustle. I go out and I knock on doors, and I'm always looking for more business. So that told me that some people thought that hard work was confused with luck. So when I had a major health incident in my 20s, I decided to own it. I knew that I couldn't, with my attitude, cure my cancer, but I knew that if I paid attention to the research on resiliency, I could have a better quality experience. And I've since learned that for chronically ill, what you think and feel and how you frame it or how do you see things can greatly impact the quality of the experience and sometimes the outcome. So that really got me interested in resiliency. So it was interesting to get started, and the older I get, the more I find resiliency pays big dividends. So I have been using it since 1987 to teach others how to be more resilient. And so resiliency is a set of factors about how do you and I and us all help each other to be safer, happier, more productive, better quality experiences. So in teaching children how to be more resilient, it increases their grades. It lowers their distress or stress. In teaching high school and university students, resiliency, Stanford University improved the graduation rate substantially in one school they tested. So when you only have a 47% graduation rate in a high school, that's a pretty appalling graduation rate. And they, over the course of a few years of work, got it up to over 90%, which is huge. So that's what I do is I teach resiliency. So I work with sales groups to get them to improve. I work with parent groups to help them with kids with chronic illness. I work with communities that are having issues. I work with a giant Fortune 500 company because when you teach people to be more resilient, you increase morale, you lower absentee rates, you increase productivity, you increase happiness, and it's just not for work, it's for home. Eventually, they release the program for families as well. So it's an exciting topic. I really enjoy doing it. I believe in it passionately. And having been in it for 30 plus years, the research is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And one of the things we've done in the last 15 years is develop programming for children, because a lot of experts with good intent said, you can't work with kids on this until they're 7. And we've proven them wrong, because kids might up till 7 might not have the logical capabilities, but when you appeal to them emotionally with joy, respect, and happiness, it's amazing what you can get children to learn and reflect back to you, helping them with their quality of life, their concentration, their sleep patterns. So I've worked with several children's groups when they were helping kids deal with trauma, educational issues, and other things. So I'm a real happy guy because it's nice to be alive and be a difference maker in small ways with people, or in some cases, big ways. I even got to work in a nursing home where everybody was 88 and older. That was really humbling. What could I teach 88-year-olds to a 103-year-old? But the director of nursing and education said, Michael, these are all really strong, tenacious people. But as they age and their body starts to fade, they're getting grumpy about life. And your job is to remind them that aging might not be fun, but it's normal. And so, yes, maybe their bodies aren't working as well as they'd like, but they still have their rational, emotional, physical, and spiritual practices that'll help get them through the rest of the journey. So it's been a wonderful thing to become a resiliency expert and coach and train people of all ages and all faiths around the world. So that's what I'm doing.
That's great. You told us about yourself in detail, and it was such a wonderful to know more about you. Now let's talk about Mr. Michael. That you help people to lift up and their organization to lift up. So how you are doing these kind of things, and how you become and like a motivational person to people who just got like they don't have anything to do, like they just if someone don't going up in their business, they just fall down and they have some kind of issues, mental issues. How you are doing dealing with that
Okay,
these kind of
well,
people?
it's a whole series of things. And as we don't have 12 days or 12 hours, I'll condense it down. So it's a series of things to be more resilient. A simple one, if you know me on Facebook, is a ritual of beverage every morning, every afternoon. And people say to me, why do you post good morning, kettle's on, time for tea? Tea for me is a morning ritual. And tea is a time for quiet reflection if I'm on my own. And it's also a time to reflect and appreciate who's helped get me here. So my earliest memories are loving parents, loving grandparents, aunties and uncles. So that big first cup of tea is about a time to reflect with some gratitude on how did I get here. Now, some of you know that I tease that I'm bilingual. I drink coffee and tea every day. And that after breakfast, it's time for coffee. And now it might sound silly, but again, coffee is about reflecting on what's the day about? What do I need to do? Like today, I'm going to meet with you and we're going to chat to your viewers about a serious topic. But rituals, small and large, are really important because they help give us process. They help set us up for success. Every morning, at some point, I get up. 6 days a week I shave. 1 day a week, if I'm not going to be seeing anybody else, I don't shave, give my face a rest. But shower, hygiene, it's part of my ritual. And yes, I tend to get in there and get busy and get all, and then there's that 3 or 4 second reflection, face under the shower. Oh, am I ever lucky to have hot and cold running water? That is a huge gift. So rituals, that's the number one thing. As I was saying, what do you read? Part of my rituals are reading, spiritual development, one of my favorite books, hobby. So serious matters, all vital to do and know. So rituals of calming, rituals of informing, rituals of reflection all help. But resiliency for people who are having in their personal life, their business life, maybe they're going to school in education, and whether you're in grade 6 or in third year university or you're working on your PhD, we still need habits that help build us up. So part of it is what's going on in here. What is your thinking pattern? So I developed a very basic model because I wanted to be able to talk to 6-year-olds, 37-year-olds, 94-year-olds and say, what is your patterns of thought? So in life, something happens. That's an X. Then we have a choice. And some of us don't realize that we constantly make the same choice when something happens. We go to fear. Uh-oh, danger. That's an okay place to visit. But if you live there, then that fear owns you. It's a lot of energy, a lot of physical, emotional, mental energy that you're taking up. So when something happens, to go to fear, that's safety. That's okay. I remember hearing what I thought were gunshots. I got on the ground real fast. Not being a scaredy cat, but you can't fight a bullet when you've got nothing else but a book in your hand. Turns out it was a truck backfiring. But I looked around, I got cautious, I got back up, got moving again. So how many of us, when there's a fearful issue, never confront it? Never say, I'm going to deal with this head on. I'm going to look it in the eye and deal with it. So I remember having a friend saying, could you talk to my son? He's in grade 8 and he's not just scared of going on to a higher level of education. He seems petrified. Well, we talked and I didn't learn anything except to confirm the mother was right. He was scared. So I said, can I give you a book? So I gave him a book to read. It turns out the young gentleman had a reading disorder and hadn't learned to read. What he had was an exceptional memory, and he had the ability to, if you read the book out loud, he knew what was on each page. He just couldn't read the words. So that led to a diagnosis. It led to help. So resiliency is in part was when something happens, what is your response? It's good to be safe, back away, assess what the issue is. Do you need to ask for help, or are you able to deal with this all on your own? So when that something happens, that's what I call the bitter, better line. In training, it's good to back away, be safe. So you're not doing it out of fear, you're doing it out of cautiousness, and you're assessing. But then, oh, yeah, this issue scares me, or this issue is annoying, or this issue is frightening, or this issue is overwhelming, but I am not going to let it own me here, or in, no, What's this issue? I'm going to figure out a safe way to cope with it, deal with it, and be triumphant. So in my business career years ago, I got told, we really want this customer. We have no distribution in that area. We want this customer. I'm like, yeah, okay. And then I got oh yeah, but for 40 years, he won't talk to us. Oh, so 2 basic thoughts in my mind, almost at the same time. Oh man, this is going to be impossible. And then another one, you're going to have to be very creative to connect, engage, and have a conversation with this man. Because if he said no to dealing business with us for 40 years, and everybody retires at some point, so after 40 years, he's in his mid-60s. So it's like, I better find a way to capture this business away from our competitors. So instead of being fearful that we'd failed for 40 years, it was like 40 years of traditional approaches didn't work. Let's be respectfully non-traditional. So I went in, introduced myself. He said, just leave, not interested. I said, okay, I just want to help you make more money. Not interested, okay. So then I decided that I would talk to his managers. And after 2 years of talking to his managers, shipping, receiving, floor manager, it was retail, head cashier, I went back in and said, still want to help you make more money? He said, you're a persistent so-and-so. And within a year, we had 100% of his business. So resiliency is about attitude, response, training our brain to acknowledge that, yes, some things can be dangerous and unsafe, but what can we do to approach them for the best possible safety and best possible outcome? Sometimes what we think is dangerous and scary was all in here. Sometimes it really is out there. But in either case, a logical, rational approach, asking for help, reflecting on it, putting a process together. How do we work through it? How do we move forward for a better quality outcome? It can help quite substantially. So, resiliency. Things happen, shrink away in fear, or shrink back, get reflective, then come over here and say, okay, now I'm on the better side and I'm going to put together a plan. I'm going to assess the options. I'm going to gain the skills, get the resources. I'm going to push forward on this to the best of my abilities. And I'm going to surround myself, that's a key with resiliency, with people that will respectfully support me, not willy-nilly, oh, you can do anything you want. Sometimes we have relatives with good intentions that give us bad advice. And not also, we got to be careful we don't let our fearful friends in saying, oh, no, don't do it. So if we had the no, don't do it ever, we'd never learn anything. So resiliency is about confronting the fear, stepping back, assessing, getting the skills, the resources, the people, and pushing forward for the best possible outcomes, being persistent. So resiliency is about process, thinking, feeling, skills. Resiliency is shown in the values we have by the words we use. So when we were off air before we got started, our host said, Michael, I have a backup plan if the software, technology, hardware, internet doesn't work, and I will go to hardware set 2 if option 1 doesn't work, which is pretty cool to be that organized. So that's being resilient. That's showing a spirit of thriving. So not only did his language suggest that, but his behavior tells me that too. So 4 key phrases of resiliency, the experts tell us, are when people talk about I am. So I would define myself from my chronic health and my acute health issues is I am doing all I can to thrive, to be safe, physically, emotionally, to manage my health. I am. I have exceptional resources. I've read books. I've got a good medical team to the best of my abilities and what my country can provide. I have, to the best of my abilities and my finances, the best diet to support my health. I am, I have. I can make this happen. I can phone to get appointments if I need a medical appointment to make sure that my health is maintained. Because if I let it go bad or go poor, then it's harder to push back and regain what I had. So I wish to be active, not reactive with my health issues. And then I do. I just don't talk about what I can do. I actually go implement it and I do it and I practice it. So is that exercising for a couple of 10 to 20 minute periods a day? Because you got to keep the muscles toned up. What do you do to engage your brain to keep it sharp and focused? Now, to tease our host, I tried to grow one of these, but even some things are outside of the realm of possibilities. So when I try to grow a mustache, I am, I can, I have, I do. The doing didn't work so well, so I gave up. So resiliency, process, skills, vision and values that becomes our language, and having a circle of people around us that support us, keep us safe, and encourage us to take risks. So that's a real quick overview, but really important that we own our resiliency.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Mr. Michael. You gave me a detailed answer and detailed overview about this process. Okay, now if we talk about, as you are a keynote speaker, and nowadays a lot of young generation want to be a keynote speaker or inspiration speaker, how they can become an inspiration speaker? What should they do if they want to become an inspiration speaker or a motivation speaker?
Good question. Good question. Well, in the beginning, what's your topic? What's your passion? What's your interest? So that's the first thing. So I talk about resiliency because having almost died 3 times due to 2 bouts of cancer, a failed medical procedure, nobody's fault. My body just was exhausted from a series of treatments to fight cancer. So I talk about resiliency because I've lived it several ways. And then one year when I was off sick, or I was about to, I got told, you've got cancer, it's come back, you've got 3 weeks. We want you in the hospital in 3 weeks. So I took a holiday day, had a good cry, made sure my personal life, my will, everything was in order so that my spouse, should I die, didn't have to run around looking for things. Put it all in an envelope, and it was in my home office, stuck it in the wall, and I put vital info. Told myself it was there. I said, now ignore it. And then I phoned all my customers and said, hey, I got some health news. I need to have a meeting with you because I might be off work for 2 to 4 months. I went in and made a meeting. We laid out a strategic plan to manage their business from my perspective and grow their business and income. And then I went off to surgery and treatment. And 2 months into treatment, I get a call from my manager saying, Michael, what are you doing? I said, I'm still in the hospital. I'm recuperating from my cancer treatment and surgery. Oh, congratulations. You're number 7 in the country out of 79 sales consultants. It's like, woo! So if you want to be a speaker, what's your passion? What's your topic? What's your experience got you to do? As a teenager, I had a paper route. I doubled the number of customers I had because my parents were really good at getting me to practice how this worked. Hello, sir. Michael from your local community newspaper. Would you like a newspaper warm and dry Monday to Friday before 6? Always before 3 on Saturdays? Boy, I tell you, every 2 months I was knocking on your door because I knew you got 2 other newspapers at your door. You should have mine instead of theirs because I'm consistent. Always before 6 on Monday to Friday. Always before 3. And my mother, I can remember like yesterday. Now, you're dealing with busy mums. You knock on that door, you step back. Don't invade them. Don't invade their space. They got better things to do than answer the door. They can be this deep in dishes, this deep in a dirty diaper. So when you're calling on them at 4 in the afternoon, delivering newspapers while you're looking for more customers, that's great. Love it. Don't be a pest. No more than once every 2 months. And it worked. So my story of resilience and keynoting is, what is your story? My story can't be yours and yours can't be mine. My grade 1 teacher discovering within 3 weeks that I had an eye-hand coordination issue. I could do my best and practice till my hands hurt, but I don't know how to print and write these days any better than grade 1. I practiced hundreds of hours. Turns out 1% of us don't have the neural pathways in here that makes this work right. I can play the piano above average. I can keyboard and type average, but print and write. My grade 1 teacher wrote my parents the most amazing letter. It's come to my attention that your son, Michael, has a challenge printing and writing. It's going to be tough on him in school because we expect that to be done well. However, I believe his best efforts will not improve it. So he just has to do his best and forward. However, Michael has advanced skills both in the classroom and in the playground compared to his fellow students, so he will excel in other areas of life outside of printing and spelling. So that's part of my story. I've never met anybody else with that story. So to be a keynoter, what's your story? What's your passion? If you're passionate about nature and conserving nature, excellent. Maybe it's about respecting genders. Maybe it's about community safety. There's all sorts of topics. So to be a keynoter, what's your topic or topics? Be careful. Too many topics, and people are going to suspect you're not good at any of them. So I'd say pick 2 or 3 topics and go deep. Now, the beauty of resiliency is it allows me to talk about resiliency, the umbrella topic. And like an umbrella, there's all these spokes holding up the umbrella. So there's self-confidence and self-esteem. There's persistence and courage. There's lots of topics. So pick your topics. Then key points. Then develop your speech. Practice. I'm a big believer in the not-for-profit group Toastmasters. Toastmasters has nothing to do with making toast for breakfast. Toastmasters is based on the old tradition of toasting a beverage for cheers. So Toastmasters is about getting people to speak, teaching them how to do 3-minute impromptus, 10-minute plan speeches, 5-minute plan speeches. some of the best time I ever invested in myself and for my family and my community was my sales manager, Mr. Ward Parsons, got me to take Toastmasters. It was a game changer. Before Toastmasters, talking to you one-on-one, easy. You, me, and one other, easy. Put a fourth person in the room, uh-oh. I don't know why, but somewhere between the third and the fourth person, my brain would freeze up. Talk to a large group, oh, you might as well point a gun at me. Nothing's going to happen. Sweat. And the other thing Toastmasters helped me break through, sales presentations to large groups, which can greatly impact your income. Before Toastmasters, I would get so nervous talking to groups that it actually hurt to perspire. My shirts would be wet, my belt would be wet, and it felt like somebody had needle nose pliers in my armpits pinching me because I was perspiring that rapidly. So if you want to be a keynoter, topic, passion, practice, skills, practice again. And I once heard a gentleman who had an amazing presentation. I had humor, stress, and change as a presentation. That got me 30 or 40 paid pieces of keynote in my province or state. It was amazing. One group hired me 30 plus times for that speech. He did humor, risk, and change. Oh my gosh. He told the story of presenting to chiefs of police in one of the states in the US. And he said, I got almost to the end. We were having our last break of the day. It was a 6-hour workshop. And he said, this older lady, they just announced at lunch that she was retiring in 7 days, came up and she said, you, me, let's talk. And he thought, oh no, I've annoyed and I've angered the oldest senior member of the group. She said, we got to whisper. You're really smart, but quit using the binder. You either know this and believe it in every ounce of your being, or you don't. Practice a little more, so all you need is 6 pages of notes for the whole day. You're acting like every word on your printed page is important. No, what's important is you own a space in our hearts and engage us at a point where we trust you so well, we really listen to our minds and our heart with our minds and our hearts, and we absorb the material better. You're just doing it like it's an important piece of information to transfer because you're paid to be here. Speak from your heart more, less from your head. And he said that was a life-altering experience. He said, I wish I could thank her 100 times more. He said within 6 months, my business was bigger. I was having whole rooms start to laugh at me and with me when we talked. He said, which was great because we were talking about important things, lowered the stress, increased the learning. So part of learning to keynote is how can you share from the heart more and the head less? Your information's vital if you do it well, but you want to go have people go home and change something. I remember talking to an insurance professional, life insurance, and he said, when I do keynotes, I'm not there to sell you or anybody else in the room a life insurance policy. I'm there to talk about financial planning for your family's safety. And I gave him permission to talk about me, that on a Monday, I talked to a life insurance professional I'd known for a year and said, I think my wife and I are going to start a family in less than a year. It's time to get some life insurance to help keep them safe should I pass early. I don't plan on passing. Like my grandparents, I like to be over the age of 75 or much older, but let's be prudent. Great, Michael. When do you want to see me? Let's see you a week today. So this is Monday, next Monday. By Thursday, I had my cancer diagnosis. Luckily, I'm still here. So we didn't need that insurance. So I didn't die. But again, this agent talks to people about getting your financial affairs in order. It's great that one spouse gets money and one doesn't, and the other one does other things, but you have to share enough that at least you know the basics so that, as one of my relatives said when their husband died early, I know where the checkbook is, I know how to write checks, I know what the family budget is, but I left all that messy stuff up to him. She instead spent her time making world-class meals. So, keynotes. Practice, and also after you've given a few, ask for references. So references, yes. So if I speak to one of your groups, so thank you for having me here today. After the speech is over, I talked to a couple of members. If you liked what I said, Could you put on paper or an email, on electronic email letterhead, please, because it looks more formal and believable, a couple of points of today? What'd you take away? Was it a skill? Was it a process? Was it a fact? What changed? So that financial group that hired me 30 plus times for my humor, stress, and change, they took away the fact that because they did taxes, and that in the month of April, some of them worked 90 hours a week, and they weren't going to be seeing their families very much except as a sleepy, grouchy human, that they should make social time planned in the months before that more than usual, so that the kids knew that dad was going to be, or mom was going to be busy, crazy busy, and that March and April provided like 80% of the family income for the whole year. Yes, come June, when dad had caught up, or mom had caught up on their sleep from accounting craziness, we'll get back to normal. But please realize that for 90 days, talk about it in advance. Don't surprise them, especially if you got young kids. Teenagers understand maybe, but if you haven't told them what they're supposed to guess, they think you're just ignoring them. So, keynote, ask for references. Ask after you get the letter, because you don't want them to put it in the letter. What's one thing or two things you'd like me to do more of next time? Not if you ever have me back. Just assume you were good enough that there's a next time. What's one or two things? And one might say, I remember a client saying, you had a lot of information. I loved it, but can I get a one-page handout? Oh, okay. So now you're giving them an information sheet, and even if it's just 5 bullet points, but maybe there's a link to a website, maybe there's an email and a phone number. You're also in that sheet giving them information, but there's also marketing involved, because you've got a website, a phone number, an email address that they can rebook you. So one of my mentors, Alan Simmons, said, you got to get 100 of those letters before I would say you're professional. And I'm like, 100? Whoa, I'm only at 43 when I met him. I was fortunate, though, because of my 10-year corporate career, I already had clients. When I quit the corporation, I had enough believability and professionalism that I got work in another area real quick. So you want to be a keynoter, passion, topic, practice, good structure, join a group that can help you improve. Some people say Toastmasters is too structured. But if I want to be really fluid and almost crazy comic at the front of the room, like Jim Carrey, I think it's great we start with major structure. And as you practice and practice and practice, the threads of the structure can go away, and then you can be up there, and it almost looks like it was all ad-lib, but it was all because of intense planning. And something that a man called Peter Ernst Bender taught me is we all have a gift when we present. How will you share your gift? With some people, it's the ability to use pauses. So you can talk and you're not afraid of no speaking. And that's when I learned the most important point of my life at that point. And you look at the audience, 1001, 1002, you're not counting out loud, this is in your head. And they're all going, when's he going to tell me? When's he going to tell me? You're building some drama into your presentation. So Peter said, have you built a little drama into your presentation? And he said, have you ever been really stressed and your 90-minute presentation, you got it done in 40, and yet you did everything because you spoke too fast? So Peter talked about the skill of reflection, paying attention to what level of energy, what state of mind are you in before you open your mouth. As you walk up to present, walk half the speed you think you should be walking. So that's another thing to consider, is what state of being are you in? I remember being at a national presentation where I was going to be their second. They had 2 closing keynoters, me from a patient's perspective, and then their executive director about patient care in the next year and the next 10 years. And just before I went on stage, there was national news about the federal government changing some law. And so the whole place was in an uproar. Suddenly, my presentation was less relevant in the immediate. So they asked me if I could make my 75-minute speech in 20 minutes. So how calm can you be? And what's one point in your speech? You're not doing 75 minutes or 45. You've been asked to do 20 minutes. Well, I know I've had a couple of people I met who said, I told them it was best we didn't and just go on with your emergency session. But then I went, no, I can do 20 minutes. So I was going to give you 75 minutes, but we're going to give you the condensed version because you have other pressing matters. I want you to remember just two things. And I went and did my 20 minutes. I was finishing at 18 minutes. I said, so let's wrap it up and take it home. I did. I got a standing ovation. And they went, have them back for 20 minutes another time. That was great. So part of being a professional is how flexible are you on the time? I was once in a building where there was a big storm suddenly, and we went from a bright sunny day to we didn't see anything to indicate it, but the weather looked like we might have been on the edge of a tornado. We got hail, we got incredible winds, incredible silence, hail, incredible wind, and then suddenly, to use an old phrase, the heavens opened up with rain, and we had 2 feet of water in our room in no time. So we were all standing on the desks, and as the water came in and the drains, I said, unplug everything now. Because if you're at the front of the room, how prepared are you to be in charge of safety? Because you're at the front of the room. So where are the emergency exits? Is there anybody in the room that has mobility issues? You're in charge of the room and people's safety if you're at the front of the room. Have you walked the room? Do you know where the exits are? In a lot of buildings, the place where you do the speaking is close to the kitchen. If there's a fire, fires often happen in kitchens. Do you know which exit goes towards the kitchen? Which exit goes away from the kitchen? So pay attention to these things. So in the end, we had 3.5 feet of water in that conference room, and we eventually got the sliding door that had been winterized opened, and the water gushed out to the outside. A couple of participants took their good shoes off, rolled up their pants, and got the door open, and out went the water, and we only had an inch left after that. So we finished the presentation without electronics and no PowerPoint, nothing, and did our best. But again, I got another 10 plus events out of that because I handled the emergency safely, which was not part of the criteria for speaking, but all my mentors with world-class success, if you're at the front of the room, you are in charge of safety. So I remember hearing about a presenter, and the fire alarm went off, and within seconds they could smell smoke in their room. So he said, I want you to go outside, take your purse, your wallet, your gear, walk out. Do not go into the hotel. I want you to walk across the street into the lobby. And he pointed at the meeting manager who hired him. I want you to ask them if they have a free room over there, a room free, all pay, to finish the presentation, because they were an hour into a 3-hour presentation. There's obviously a fire. We can't come back here. It's not safe to breathe. They went across, the hotel across the road was gracious, gave them a room for free. He finished the presentation, and that got him dozens of pieces more work because he had kept people safe and stopped them from panicking. So, keynoting, topic, passion, practice, take lessons, take diverse lessons. I've taken Toastmasters and I loved it, but I've also taken lessons from people who work with stand-up comics and politicians, because there's all sorts of different ways to deliver, and we have to find out what's good for our style of who we are and what's good for our different audiences. So I've had audiences say, no, can't work with you. Oh, why is that? Well, our group's full of accountants. So I say, well, here's some letters from the 30 plus accounting groups I work with. Oh, no, our accountants are very accountant-y. I'm not sure what that means. It sounds like they were hiding. So those are some thoughts on being a professional keynoter. And last but not least, what associations can you join? If you lived in the United States, I'd say National Speakers Association. If you lived in the province, or you live in Canada, there's a Canadian Professional Speakers Association. There's different groups all world to support this. Some are regional, some are national. Some of the national ones are related to the U.S. Speakers Association, but it's about quality of delivery, quality of content, quality of engagement. My
Exactly.
biggest joys was to work with the group that had been concentration camp survivors in the 1990s. To have them invite me to come and present not once but twice. Wow. I thought, what can a 40-odd-year-old guy teach people who lived through concentration camps in World War II? Turns out they like my message of finding ways to be joyful as our body ages out of this lifetime. So who knew? So thank you.
Okay, now I have one more question.
Yes.
It could be a last question. I would love to know about you, and you can wrap it up in just 2 or 3 minutes. That how to deal with failure and become more successful.
So dealing with failure.
How to deal with failure and become more
Okay.
successful.
Okay. Well, first of all, be careful how you see failure, how you feel failure. Failure is embarrassing. Failure is painful. One of my mentors talked about doing a speech, and he said, 10 minutes into the speech, the people at the back of the room had their napkins waving them like in a fight. We surrender, we give up. He said they didn't dislike my presentation, they hated my presentation and thought I was worthless and useless. Powerful words, but he said that's their perception. They're paying me. I spent 30 hours researching, practicing, developing a 75-minute speech. They paid me a good week's money to do 75 minutes. And 20 minutes in, 10 minutes in, they hated me. So the meeting manager that was paying me and contracted me has also got their neck stuck out because they hired me. So I said, it's obvious that we're not getting along here and you don't like my presentation. And the people in the front who hadn't been waving napkins surrendering, but they all agreed. So he said, I think we should better use our time to figure out what you don't like about the topic. So he stopped presenting, he asked questions, and he offered to come back and speak for free. So he said, I could have just said, yep, I get the point. You don't like my presentation. I'm done. I'll go. Thank you very much. He said, I could have just walked away, given the check back to the meeting planner, and just chalked it up to a bad day. But he said, if I'd have done that, there's no coming back. So instead, I said to the meeting planner, I'm going to ask some questions and then we'll wrap it up. So he asked them why they didn't like his presentation. Was it content, delivery? They gave him feedback. He offered to come back and redo it in a whole different way. And that got him a lot of success, and they went on to hire him quite a bit. So he said, I could have saw it as failure, rejection, and there's just stupid customers, or I'm a stupid man. But he said, I decided to make it a learning situation, build some bridges, and have a takeaway. So failure, is it a lesson or is it just painful? If you can see it as a lesson and move forward from it, then you can really make advances. So that's my thoughts on failure.
That's great. Thank you so much, Mr. Michael. You gave your precious time to me, and it was such a wonderful session with you. Enjoyed a lot, learned a lot through your experience, as your experience as a keynote speaker, storyteller, and you tell us in a beautiful way, in a very detailed way. Such a wonderful session with you. Thank you so much once again. And it's time
Thank
to end
you.
our session here. Thank you
Okay.
so much. Take
Thank
care,
you.
and
Absolutely.
take care, you. And thank you so much, and good night from Pakistan. Take care. Bye
Thank
bye.
you. Bye-bye.